And welcome back, All Sports Western New York. I brought Steve Manson in here to talk about the Buffalo Sabres and Ted Nolan, but during the commercial break, he's giving me a scoop, and he won't let me use it, so I won't go into it. But we bet a dinner over it, and I'll let you know if I win or lose. Buffalo Sabres, Ted Nolan, as I had written a couple months ago, and look, folks, I'm not taking credit for breaking the story, because to me this made too much sense, but Ted Nolan has now signed with the Buffalo Sabres. We've talked about this, though I think we're all relieved that he's finally actually signed it.
Well, and again, I said this the last time I was here. I think it's fantastic that Ted's coming back. I am a big Ted Nolan supporter. I think he's the right guy at the right time. But let's be honest, this organization has no problem buying out contracts. So if it doesn't work out at the end of next year, who's the guy that they're going to decide takes the fall for another lousy season? But you know what? In the past 3 or 4 weeks, I've gone from being lukewarm to being pretty solid with Tim Murray now as GM. I like what I've heard. Again, we have to see the action. But I like what I heard. I like the fact that he signed Ted to the contract. I think he's his own man down there. I don't think Pat LaFontaine was. I think Pat was being influenced by a lot of the people that were already in the building down there. I think Tim Murray's the kind of guy, he's an outstanding personnel guy. We knew that right from the start. And that's exactly what this club needs right now, because this is going to be the most important offseason in Buffalo Sabre history.
Okay, stop right there. All right, stop right there.
All right.
First off, the way I was, from what I could tell, you had been a fan of the hire of Tim Murray right from the get-go. So I'm surprised to hear you say now you're really happy with him. But you were always impressed with his credentials.
Well, I was always impressed with his credentials as a personnel guy.
Right.
Okay. I have since become impressed with his attitude, what he said, what he's done, the fact that the man's been on the road since he got here. This is the kind of, he's a rink rat. He's the kind of guy who they need now.
So he's certainly dedicated to the job. Okay, so it's good to hear that you're comfortable with him as GM. And whatever, if there was, and I'm not saying that there was any differences, with the selection of Ted Nolan, because let's face it, Pat brought him in.
Right.
Murray didn't bring him in. But for what, Murray seems comfortable with him now. He said all the right things. But if you're saying that he's his own man within the organization, and we all have our own suspicions as to what happened to LaFontaine, I guess he's now bulletproof, because they certainly can't let him go now. I mean, I guess he could stand up and say, if you want to keep me, this is how I'm going to run the thing. And they're not about to step in and get rid of the second guy they brought in 3 months ago.
Well, it'd actually be the third one, because they kept Darcy Regier when they first got here and did all that. Oh, this is the guy who's going to do it. Gave him an extension and everything. So really, Murray's the third guy. I agree with you. Not that he's bulletproof, because I don't think anybody is, but I think he's got a pretty solid base, and I think he's using it to establish himself down there.
Okay, this team has done a great job of being bad. I mean, this is like the worst. This is the worst.
That is the best I've heard it explained.
This is the worst Sabres team in history.
It's one of the worst teams in the history of the
NHL. I mean, when they're, if this is the first time they said they were going to do something, they did it. They did it as good as they could possibly do it. I keep thinking about this, and I think, my God, I hope this is the right path, because they have become such a bad hockey team that we're happy that they're playing tight games against good teams. Forget the fact they're not winning, right? I mean, this is how far we've sunk.
I couldn't agree with you more. I go and tell my wife, geez, we only lost 2-1 tonight. Right. It was a great game. Right. Well, it really wasn't a great game, because obviously they're playing a very defensive style.
You've been covering hockey for over a century. So what do you think the realization, how soon do you think we should expect this team to be better?
Next year.
Next year already?
Yes. Now, am I predicting they're going to make the playoffs or they're run for the Stanley Cup? No. But I think they're going to be better. I think they're at absolute rock bottom now.
All right. Okay. So I should preface. Yes. They're about as bad. This is historically bad.
Historically bad.
So I don't mean just like a little bit better than historically bad. You think next year they're actually going to be
I think we're going
competitive?
We're going to see progress. I think, we're going to see some competitive nights. I think they're going to have to answer the goaltending situation. They're going to have to figure out who's going to be in net. I think that the defense is they've got building blocks like you can't believe back there that are only going to get better game in and game out. Now they got to find some scoring, and I'm hoping they're going to address that in the draft this year. They should come up with at least one, maybe two players, depending on whether they get the Islanders first pick or not, that should make the team next year. young, talented players. They need some centers. They need some people that can actually move the puck around, and they're going to have to also find some players to go along with all. You cannot dress 19 rookies, so they're actually going to have to find some veteran players. Be it some of the guys that are on the club now, maybe a free agent or two. Certainly not a star, because no star is going to come here at this point. But address some middle guys that are going to help these young kids grow.
So what you're saying is that maybe it wouldn't have been a bad idea to have kept Steve Ott around with this younger group of players?
I'm saying that there's a possibility Steve Ott could come back.
Oh, I know.
He's a free. Well, I'm not. I don't know anything. I'm just saying that as of July 1st, he is a free agent.
Steve,
he really liked it here, and they liked him.
We both know that you don't know anything, but we bring you on the show because we give the perception. No, seriously, yes. Steve, you've been around a long time.
I think there's a possibility Steve Ott comes back. I think he'd be a great player to put in with all these young kids. I think he was a steady influence this year.
And Ted Nolan loves him.
And Ted Nolan loved him. Why wouldn't? I mean, St. Louis hasn't signed him to a contract. He's going to be a free agent July 1st. Why wouldn't he consider coming back? And why would the Sabres not consider bringing him back?
I don't know.
I was just throwing that out. He's the kind of player, plus some more of his ilk, you got to bring in here, because you have to have somebody to play with all the rookies. You got to dress 20 players. They can't all be rookies.
I can hear you. Okay, before I let you leave, have you been able to advance the Pat LaFontaine story at all since last we talked?
Not really. You know, the general feeling is among people I've discussed, and not just people in Buffalo, but people that are around, in other cities that know Pat or know the situation, that it was pretty much that the people who surround the leadership in this management group had daily battles with Pat, and Pat finally threw up his hands. And the big question is, was he fired, or was he forced out, or did he quit? I don't think we're going to get an answer to that, because Pat's not talking, and neither is the
I don't know if you've heard. I've heard that his son's still going to go to Canisius, and we should still expect to see Pat around town, because his son's going to be playing
right across the street.
There in the arena, right?
Yeah, right across the street. Plus, Pat's got so many ties to Buffalo through his charities and other things he's got going here. I think it would be a great loss to this organization, this city, if Pat just divorced himself of this entire thing.
Well, Steve, it's always great having you on the show. I've been so impressed tonight because you actually used the word ilk, which is a first for you.
Well, I've been studying the dictionary.
Yeah, you're all dressed up. You're dropping fancy words.
Here we are.
I don't know. Something's good. And here's your hockey website, WestNewYorkHockeyNow.com. And you're telling me it's coming out in print form this summer.
Yeah, we're going back to, we were print for over 20 years, and we went digital, and now we've decided that there's still enough call to, to print the magazine, so we're going to do that.
What's old is new again.
Yeah, you bet that.
Yeah. Steve Manson, the hockey man. Always great to have him on the show. And I'm going to talk more off camera about this big scoop he gave me that I can't talk about.
It has nothing to do with hockey.
No. Art Wander's returning to radio. Oh, I'm sorry. April Fool's was last week. Steve, great having you on the show.
Always a pleasure,
We'll see you
Bob.
back in a couple of weeks.
You got it.
Hey, we'll be back to wrap up All Sports right after this.